Fratelli e sorelle, in questo giorno,
Brothers and sisters, on this holy day, the liturgy leads us to contemplate the Lord's Passion. Faced with this mystery of death and glory, it is natural to gather silently in prayer. Yet the cross of Christ risks remaining incomprehensible if we look at it as an isolated fact, as a sudden and inexplicable event. In reality, it is the high point of a journey, the fulfillment of a life in which Jesus learned to listen to and welcome the voice of the Father, allowing himself to be led as far as the greatest love. In these days of Holy Week, the liturgy has let us hear the so-called songs of the servant of the Lord. They are poetic texts in which the prophet Isaiah sketched the figure of a mysterious servant through whom God succeeds in saving the world from evil and sin. Christian tradition has recognized in these songs a striking prefiguration of that dramatic melody that marked the steps of Jesus, identifying him as that man of sorrows acquainted with suffering, who emptied himself unto death, bearing upon himself the sin of many. By his wounds we all have been healed. In the first song, the servant is introduced as someone called by the Lord to carry out a precise and ambitious mission, to open the eyes of the blind and bring prisoners out from confinement, and from the dungeon those who live in darkness. It is a task marked by life, directed to those crushed by suffering, injustice and sin. Yet the servant must carry it out with extreme delicacy, following a precise and countercultural method. He will not cry out or raise his voice, nor make it heard in the street. He will not break a bruised reed, nor quench a dimly burning wick. No aggressiveness, no recourse to force, no temptation to destroy everything and start again from scratch. The servant must be a seeker of life in the midst of the darkness of evil. It is not easy to embrace such a mission. We are all tempted to force situations, to use a measure of aggressiveness, thinking that without harshness things will never be resolved. The servant of the Lord will not be able to yield to this instinct. He must safeguard meekness as the only strength with which to confront the darkness of evil, protect every remaining fragment of good, and offer oxygen to flames that are about to go out. In the second song, something begins to crack. After trying to carry out his mission, the servant feels the bitter sensation that his entire attempt to do good has been useless. In vain have I labored. The good that has been sown does not seem to sprout. Everything appears blocked. It is a crisis that sooner or later reaches anyone who has chosen to follow the Lord. The sensation of going in circles, of getting nowhere, of not bearing fruit. In reality, it is only an impression. By the word "in vain," the prophet does not say that the servant has acted uselessly, but only that the outcome of his work cannot be verified. By bringing light into darkness, the servant of the Lord has entered a space where things are no longer understood according to our criteria, but follow the often paradoxical design of a salvation that comes from God. In the third song, a new surprise emerges. The servant realizes that precisely those whom he would like to help react with hostility, anger, and even violence. Those who live in darkness, in fact, do not always welcome the light. At times they reject it and try to stop it. Why does this happen? Because the light brings to the surface not only what is beautiful, but also what we would prefer to hide, our wounds, our lies, our ambiguity, and this is frightening. So one ends up rejecting the one who brings the light, so as not to have to reckon with what that light reveals. The servant, however, does not draw back. He continues on the path shown by the Lord. I gave my back to those who beat me, my cheeks to those who tore at my beard. I did not hide my face from insult and spittle. In the fourth song, something disconcerting happens. The violence that falls upon the servant is so intense that it disfigures his face to the point of making him unrecognizable, almost a human wreck. Yet it is precisely along this path that he has learned not to return the evil he has received. When evil strikes us, the instinct is to react, to send it back, to settle the score. The servant, instead, does not yield to this logic. He receives everything without returning violence. Evil reaches him, and there it stops. He bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. Brothers and sisters, Jesus did not merely listen to these songs. He interpreted them and lived them intensely, with full trust in the will of the Father, to the point of transforming his crucifixion into an event of salvation. The world, before evil, knows only two paths: to surrender to it or to return it. We see it every day, in wars, in divisions, in the wounds that mark relationships. Evil continues to circulate because it always finds someone willing to return it and multiply it. Jesus broke this chain, not by imposing himself with a superior force, but by receiving what happened to him and recognizing in it the score of love and service entrusted to his life. He did not perform this score mechanically. He made it his own, translating the prophetic words into concrete gestures, into forgiveness, into silences full of compassion. Thus, by walking the way of the cross, he learned the most difficult obedience, that of love for the other, even when the other appears as an enemy. We live in a world in which the voice of God no longer guides us as it once did, the shared journey of humanity. Not because it has failed, but because it has often become one voice among many, covered by other words that promise security, progress, well-being. These are today the directions that guide many choices and trace the course of common life. And yet, the world continues to be a place where people suffer and die, often without guilt and without reason. Wars do not stop, injustices multiply, and the most fragile pay the price. It is as if there were lacking a word capable of holding together the journey of humanity, a song able to direct our step toward a more just and more fraternal world. And yet, precisely in this setting, we can glimpse something surprising. A silent host of people who choose to listen to a different voice. Some clearly recognize it as the will of God. Others feel it as a deep and inescapable call of their own conscience. It is a voice that does not shout, does not impose itself by force, does not promise shortcuts. It is a discreet and persistent song which invites us to love, to remain, not to return the evil received. Some choose to listen to this song. They are men and women who walk, sometimes without even knowing it, the same road as the servant of the Lord. They do not perform extraordinary gestures. They simply get up every day and try to make of their life something that serves not only themselves, but others as well. They carry burdens they did not choose, receive wounds without becoming hardened, do not stop seeking the good even when it seems useless. They make no noise, they do not take center stage, but they keep open the possibility of a different world. It is thanks to them that evil does not have the last word, and history does not close in violence. This multitude of people bears witness that the songs of that servant, in whom God delights, continue to resound in the human heart, waiting only for someone willing to translate them into the concrete store of his or her life, even when this means carrying the cross. In a little while, we shall adore the Lord's cross with gestures, silence, and prayers. It will be a special occasion to recognize the mystery of God and to be reconciled with the quality, weak and strong, of His love for us and for all. If we do not want to run the risk of reducing the liturgy to a formal outward display, we can decide, at least in the depths of our heart, to lay down the weapons we are still clutching in our hands. Perhaps they do not seem as dangerous to us as those at the disposal of the powerful of the world, yet they are too instruments of death, because they are enough to weaken, to wound, to empty our daily relationships of meaning and love. Yesterday, as today, the world needs to be saved from the violence of evil, from the injustice that kills, from the divisions that humiliate. But this salvation will not descend from above, nor can it be guaranteed by political, economic, or military decisions. The world is continually saved by those who are willing to welcome the servant songs of the Lord as the form of their life. This is what the Lord Jesus did. He took the Father's will seriously, welcoming it as a score to be performed to the very end, with loud cries and tears. For this reason, at the decisive moment when he was arrested, he chose to give himself over and did not hesitate to declare, "I am he," in order to enter freely into his passion of love. To us too this evening, the score of the cross is entrusted. We can receive it freely if we accept that there is no difficult circumstances that cannot be faced, no guilty party at whom we must point the finger, no enemy who can prevent us from loving and serving. There is instead us who, by choosing not to return evil, to remain patient in tribulations, to believe in the good even when the darkness seems to swallow everything, can become those servants whom the Lord wishes to need in order to bring salvation to the world. In a time like ours, so torn apart by hatred and violence, when even the name of God is invoked to justify wars and decisions, we Christians are called to draw near without fear, indeed, with full confidence, to the cross of the Lord, recognizing in it the throne upon which one learns to reign, by placing one's life at the service of others. If we know how to hold fast to the profession of our faith, our days will know how to give voice to the songs of joy and suffering. That mysterious score of the cross, in which the notes of the greatest love can be recognized.
दोस्ती का पैगंबर रेडियो वेरिटास एशिया